Hey, good evening, guys, and welcome to Armchair Conversations with Rob. I was talking to a friend of mine today about just anything and everything, truly having an armchair conversation. And we were talking about the fact that I have always had a little different perspective on just about any subject that I can talk about with anybody. Um, I may agree with a lot of the general things that go on or that people think or whatever, but there's always some little extra angle that I have, even something as simple as a headset that's different. Because apparently these hats and other accoutrements that adorn my head at times, and especially when I'm unkempt and disheveled, seem to be getting people's attention, and they seem to be clicking and getting interested in what we're doing here and having some fun and sharing with me. And so, for those of you that have actually been out there and have given me feedback and shared with me and done something, I really appreciate that. Anyway, we were talking about the fact that I have always at least one odd angle about something. Even if I agree with most of what you say on a subject matter, there's always some odd angle that I've got. And I'm okay with that. And most of my friends are too. But they directed my attention to to a conversation that we had one day about the fact that we focus differently on some things and not others, and like there are some negative things that we can accept and others that we reject, and vice versa. There are positive things that we accept and reject. And of course I was like, what do you remember about the conversation? They said, well, actually I remember the fact that you kind of spurred me to think about the fact that there are some things that we accept as written gospel truth, dogma, and there are some things that we absolutely reject, especially when it comes to our own person. And as a matter of fact, they directed me to the email that sparked the conversation in the first place. And so I actually printed it out because it's an old email from a long time ago. And so I will read it to you verbatim as I wrote it, simply because for those of you who know me, you'll laugh because I've always been this way. And for those of you who don't know me, you'll start to get a little more of a feel for what I'm about. Hey, did you ever notice that all the people want to be the exception, whether it's positive or negative? The two that immediately come to mind are based on our recent conversations. For example, when it comes to things like being struck by lightning, we are afraid we are the 1 in 10,000 plus. Things like cancer, too, or diabetes, or Alzheimer's, or even things like contraception. We are afraid of being the 0.1 to 15%, I don't know where I got that figure, of the failure rate. We never realize that we can just as easily be part of the success rate, perhaps more likely, in fact. And so we worry. We let our fears stop us, or at least hinder our enjoyments. After all, there are billions of people on this planet who succeed in not having any of these troubles and more. But we like to be the exception in most every case, and whether we like it or not, we like to worry because it fills space in our day without us having to focus on the positive. Because fear is much easier to muster than faith or joy, especially if it's been a habit. I'll stop there for a second and remind you we talked once about habits and the fact that winning is a habit and so is losing. Bad habits and good habits are literally not inadvertently bad or good, they're habits. So you have trained that habit to repeat, or you have become comfortable in repeating a particular series of events, something you pictured yourself, something in your mind. But that's another talk for another day. I digress. Let's move on. Let's look at the other side of the coin, but tentatively, shall we? Because the particular person that I was talking to um, has a tendency in the beginning of their journeys to um, easily get overwhelmed if there's too much stuff that's changing too fast. And a lot of us are like that. But again, I digress. Another talk for another day. We are going to be the 1 in 4 million plus people who hit the lottery. So we spend $120 on just Powerball tickets every week. And guys, don't laugh. I really truly saw this. I was standing in line behind a person who bought $120 worth of lottery tickets. And I understand that the lottery is also a game of numbers, and there are some mathematical things that you can do with that. But $120 on lottery tickets, and this person looked like they really didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, and that's probably why. Not that I'm against the lottery, because I play myself at times, but I don't play, you know, a day's worth of earnings or a week's worth of earnings, depending on who you are, on the lottery. Another talk for another day. Okay. We are the person who will pass the test that everyone else failed, even though we didn't study. We drive every day with mostly certain trust that the total stranger driving on the other side of the road will not swerve over and hit us, that he or she is not drinking or has a death wish. I have to stop for this one. Think about it, guys. We drive, those of us who drive every day, okay? And all that is separating us from the other side of the road where cars are coming in the opposite direction is a double yellow line if you live in America, or it might be something in another country, but that's all that's separating us from cars. Tons of metal or plastic or amalgamation of the two, with someone behind the wheel coming the opposite direction at the same speed as we are, and we absolutely drive every day trusting that that person is not going to come over that line and bust your, well, okay? Don't even think about it most of the time, okay? But we can't trust in our own ability to take care of ourselves, or to do self-care, or to grow. Really, guys, think about it. You're trusting a total stranger driving down the road, not knowing what the hell's going to happen, but you can't trust and believe that things can be better, that you can train yourself to act differently and therefore receive different things. Selah. Okay. We are the person who will not be part of a natural disaster. We will not lose everything material that we have. The sun will rise tomorrow. Life as we know it will never cease to exist. Humble and honest opinion of mine, how come it's easier to accept some things than others? How come it's easier to focus on the success rate than the failure rate, depending on the thing? Should we make those distinctions even at the cost of our joy? Energy flows where attention goes, but I don't think there's a perfect success rate to anything. Only thing that has a near perfect success rate is death. Strangely enough, if you think about Christian religious teachings, even that has failed at least once. Simple fact is, if it's to be, it will be. No amount of worry, fear, or preparation can halt what is. Anyway, bottom line for me is, if you are living a relatively reasonable life, even by most people's standards, focus on the fact that someone has to be part of the success rate too. Energy flows where attention goes. May as well be you. Stress less, enjoy more. Here I am, here I remain. The letter was all about thought patterns and what we believe, and how easy it is to believe something positive or negative. And a lot of times we don't really think about the fact that there are certain things that we take for granted as not going to happen. Okay, and then there are certain things that we take for granted that are going to happen, like driving down the road, for example. But my thought is, if energy flows where attention goes, and you can develop habit patterns, and you can create something different, and you can actually be a part of the win column instead of the L column, it may as well be you. Somebody's got to do it. Why not me? Why not you? Okay, there isn't any reason why you can't be a part of the win column. But a lot of times you'll get taught and made to feel by everybody who can get away with it that you are destined to be in the L column all the time. Garbage. You can be in the win column, and you're going to have a balance. I mean, you're not going to win all the time, but you're not going to lose all the time either. And honestly, what you do with your life, how you train yourself to think, act, and behave based on your personal situation and your personal little microcosm of your world is going to determine how many L's and how many W's you get. And you don't have to be 50-50. You only have to even be 75-25. You could be 99 and 1, but you have to decide which column the 1 goes in and which column the 99 goes in. So, again, challenging you to think a little differently about the fact that there are many people who have wonderful things in life and do wonderful things and get wonderful things and become wonderful things. There are just as many people who don't get good stuff, who scramble to make ends meet and keep their head above water and survive, and people who outright lose. Okay? I believe that most of that is based on the actions, the thoughts, and the things that you do, because we are creators and we do create our circumstances, whether we do it energetically, magically, whether we showed up, signed up for it, whether it was a conspiracy. We create most of what happens to us. There are some things beyond our control, but very little, very little. I mean, very, very little. Okay. The sun coming up in the morning is kind of beyond your control. There are some people that think even that's not beyond your control. But it's kind of, to me, that's kind of beyond your general control. Whether or not there's a natural disaster tonight or tomorrow or today is kind of beyond your control at the moment. But that does not excuse you from the things that are in your control for you to work with and create every day. Anyway, I try to keep these short and not too long, so I just want you to know that I am challenging you in this video with my scruffy face and my goofy headset and my WVSU t-shirt, sitting here in the middle of the night, half sleep, half wake, talking to you. I'm challenging you to question why you accept some things as gospel that are negative and why you accept some things as gospel that are positive, and whether or not you can shift the two so that you get a better percentage of something that gives you joy in life instead of a sense of dread or fatality. Because I know all my brothers and sisters up here in the Clay Hills, West Virginia, we got that fatalism going on sometimes and that predestination, which I'm not totally against that either, but I do think that there are some areas where we act as if we have no control where we do. Um, even if I had to reconcile that with religious and spiritual teachings that teach predestination, okay, yes, you have a destiny. But all roads lead to Rome if you have a destiny. Because if it's predestined that you're going to do something, you're going to do it. Okay? I'm saying that a lot of the things along the way of getting there and along the road to getting there you control. Even if that's the case, even if there's fate or predestination or predetermination, there are still a lot of other factors along that journey that you control. And if there is no such thing, if we truly determine our entire destiny, which is something I'm on the fence about at times, but because I grew up in the Christian religion, so there's predestined, outcomes and fate and predetermination, and so. But I've also seen how people can take what seemed like a bad life, a bad situation, and change it. And so there's a part of me that is questioning that now, because again, if God gave us the power to create, that's not limited because He's not limited. But there are people who will argue this point, and I'm not going to get into it. But there's a lot of things you can control and you should control, especially if you want to have a good life. So, guys, think about it. Selah, think about it. And I'm going to remove the headset and tell you thank you for sharing my armchair. And I wish you a good day. And leave me some comments. If you like it, subscribe. If you don't, don't. But do something, as I always say. Thanks.